So since you have assignment 3.3 coming up due on October 24th, I figured I would come on here and give you some tips and tricks that helped me and that I have learned from doing this assignment a few semesters ago. First, your lesson objective. So you want to use the SMART acronym for this and revise the objective that's in the lesson plan that you chose to revise and make more UDL. First thing, you want to be very specific and relate to that summative assessment that's going to be the end of your lesson. You definitely want to have a measurable verb, and I provided a screenshot of the list that Carrie actually provides on Blackboard. It's in Module 2, Week 7. I think it's a PDF. And what I would recommend for this is to definitely save this to your computer. I used this in the past few years, and it's really beneficial for lesson planning in the future, for student teaching, and after that as well. And then you want to try and include a numerical measure. So for, you want to say maybe students will provide at least 2 examples of blank for whatever topic that you're talking about in your lesson, just so you have a gauge for proficiency, or if they need a little more help and aren't necessarily proficient with the objective that they're provided and expected to complete by the end of the lesson. And then one tip that I put on here is sometimes teachers like to provide the objective before even starting the lesson at all. Gets the students invested, excited about the topic, and they're not just thrown right into a lesson. They have a little bit of prefacing so that they know what they're doing, and then you can also remind them of that throughout the lesson so that they know what goal they're reaching towards during their learning. Then I want to talk about the anticipatory set, because this is pretty much the first part of your lesson. And it's very important to make sure this is engaging, exciting. And the question I like to think about is what is going to grab your students' attention and keep them engaged throughout the entire lesson. That's the goal for this anticipatory set. So the biggest thing for this to think about is keeping it sensory. They have great senses, and they love to use them. They love to move around. They love to touch things. They like to look at things, listen to songs. So the 3 big senses for this activity are going to be kinesthetic, auditory, and visual. Some examples, you could do a movement activity, get them up in a line, depending on what your topic is. You could do a brief video, a brief song, a little pattern song. Those are always fun. They could close their eyes and visualize something as you read a passage to them. You could show them a relevant artifact. You could show them a photograph if you're doing something with even history, science. Those are always good. Even English, you could do something with a picture. For the emotional and relevant side of it, those are also really good to incorporate in an anticipatory set. For emotional, it's more so for older students. If you're doing a more serious topic, you can set the mood and establish what the mood will be for the lesson. And then relevancy, you can create or think of a fun fact about their community, about their school that would relate to them to get them excited about learning. And the 3 big words that I like to also think about for anticipatory sets are easy, fun, and meaningful. And I also provided a little link on the bottom for a blog post that talks about anticipatory sets that I thought was really beneficial in creating them for lesson plans. Then you move on to creating your activities and creating the sequence of activities that you want to do for this lesson. For them, you want them to be active learning. You want them to be collaboratively learning as well. So for this, the biggest point to make is you want to support both their understanding of the topic and the content, but also the application of the content in context and also in other contexts. You want to mix it up. You don't want to use the same type or grouping style of activity over and over again, because that just gets boring. So mix that up. Don't use the same grouping. Put them in groups, put them in pairs, do the independent work. And gradual release of responsibility is really great for this because it actually sets you up to be doing the different types of grouping as you go through the lesson itself. So you start with the most teacher responsibility. So you have direct instruction. The teacher is just basically lecturing about a topic. Then you move into guided instruction. So you do it together. So the teacher and student or students together do it in groups. Collaborative learning is also the same thing. You kind of move into them working together on their own, more independent of the teacher. And then finally, they should be able to do whatever activity on their own. So you kind of move through and gradually release responsibility from the teacher until the student does things independently and then can apply it So really you're starting with understanding and gradually moving towards application, because application comes with understanding. And also scaffolding is a huge part of this. And you're doing this through the UDL checkpoints that you already created anyway. You're just plugging those into the certain parts of the lesson plan and activities where it would work. And also the style of learning, again, the activities that you choose, those are gonna help you scaffold and kind of release the responsibility and make sure that they're understanding first, and then they have the chance to apply it with groups, and then also have the chance to apply it independently on their own. And lastly, your formative assessment. So this is your final, or this is what you're doing throughout, actually. So generally 1 per activity. This is perfect. Usually you use it to just sum up an activity and gauge where they all are at before moving on to the next activity. You think of them kind of as mini assessments. So there are many versions of what your summative assessment is going to be at the end. It supports them in their understanding and their gradual movement towards application, but also you can take away as a teacher what you need to change, adjustments that you need to make on the fly, and maybe you need to go back and review a topic or some piece of content because most of your class showing you that they don't understand it. So you can make those decisions on the fly when you're actually implementing lesson plans, but they're always good to think about. And then I kind of left a little chart here of some formative assessments that I really like. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. That's really, really easy. They don't have to talk. You ask a question, and they give you thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways based on how they're feeling and how comfortable they are with the topic. 4 corners, similar idea. You ask a question, they go to either corner, and you can see whether or not the majority of your class is understanding. The question toolkit or the Kahoot, that's always good too. They can go on a tablet, a laptop, and they can see on the screen once they answer the question, and you can again gauge where they're at. Stoplight cards, they would be red, yellow, and green, and again they gauge how they're feeling, kind of like thumbs up, thumbs down, but with the colors, so it makes it fun. Turn and talk with partners or groups, and then a do and show where they can draw, they can write, they have different modes of being able to show what they've learned to you. And then lastly, a little slide for things to remember. So you're going to use your FSA lesson plan template, the one that's highlighted sections, complete only the highlighted sections. Make sure you're incorporating at least 1 checkpoint from each guideline. Cite the checkpoint number within the actual activity, the actual lesson plan. So if you're using 1.2, make sure you put that in parentheses as if you're doing an in-text citation for a paper. And don't forget to put all those checkpoints that you're going to use in the chart at the bottom of the lesson plan template as well, and have a little description. I think you can just copy paste from your activities right into that bullet or that chart. Right next to the 1.2, you would put what you did in the activity to show that you were addressing that checkpoint. And you're welcome to use more than one, as Carrie said, but just make sure you have one. And due date is October 24th by midnight. And the biggest advice I think I could give you for lesson planning as a whole is use detail all the time. You want someone to be able to pick up this lesson plan and do it by themselves. So as much detail as you can is great. And so good luck writing assignment 3.3. If you have any questions, concerns, you want to talk an idea out with me, I'm totally open to you shooting me an email, chatting with me in office hours also. I'm always there if you want to send me a question. And have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.